face when they go to the courts, the Sharia courts, when they go to the religious department to complain about their marital problems. You know, their husbands have taken a second wife and they're told that's his right in Islam. Their husbands beat them up and they go and complain and they say, oh, but that's his right in Islam to discipline his wife. Maybe you've been a bad wife, you've not been a good wife. That's why he beats you up. The husband demands obedience and he demands sex from the wife, and the wife, you know, it's not a happy marriage. She doesn't want to have sex with him. She's told, oh, that's his right in Islam to demand sex from you, and you as a Muslim wife must obey him. We were getting the same message over and over again, that a man is superior to a woman. So all these misogynistic, unjust pronouncements made against women in the name of Islam. And as a believer, as a Muslim who utterly believes that my God is a just God and my religion, Islam, is a just religion, I was just outraged. You know, like, how can God be God if God is not just? It just doesn't make sense to me, you know? So my utter belief that God is just and that anything done in the name of Islam has got to be just really then led me to deal with this issue. You know, is this really Islam? The obvious next step is really to find out for myself whether what these mullahs, ulama, men are saying, you know, that they have a right to beat their wife, they have a right to four wives and all that, whether that's really in the Quran. So that's really how it began, and I wasn't the only one. When we opened the Quran again and read it with critical eyes, it is amazing. I mean, for us, it was actually the most liberating journey that we went through. It talks about the relationship between men and women as one of mawadda wa rahma, compassion and kindness, of men and women being each other's garment, as close as, you know, the cloth on your skin. You know, it talks about men and women supporting each other. You know, it is amazing for us to find these wonderful verses in the Quran. There are a few verses in the Quran that's used to justify discrimination. For example, the verse on polygamy. The verse on polygamy says, if you know, marry 2, 3, or 4. But if you fear you cannot do justice, marry only 1. And that will be best for you. How come marry 2, 3, or 4 becomes a source of law and a practice? Who has the authority? Who decided?
I realized that religion was just being used as a smokescreen, really, as a barrier, an artificial barrier to stop women from realizing their full citizenship rights. The kind of feminism I engage with is the feminism that tries to show that the argument constantly used, the religious argument constantly used to deprive women of their full rights, is a false argument. It's just an excuse. It's not real. And that we know better. And so stop using religion as an excuse to deprive women of their rights.
You know, so this whole issue of authority then, who did, you know, because throughout the history of Islam and Islamic scholarship, there's diverse schools of thought, schools of interpretation. We, as human beings, come up with different and diverse interpretations and different and diverse understandings of the Word of God. So it is an interaction.
En tant que rabbin, bien souvent, effectivement, je me demande pourquoi le domaine de la synagogue ou de l'église ou de la mosquée reste le seul lieu où on attendrait finalement que rien ne bouge.
If religion is going to be used in the public sphere to make public policy and public laws, then it should be available for everyone to talk about it, to contest it, to come up with new interpretations, but to say no, religion is one thing and feminism is another and we can't, mix these two, I'm sorry, then take religion out of the public sphere.
Ceux qui vous affirment que les femmes ont toujours porté un voile intégral ou une burqa ne disent pas la vérité historique. Qu'en réalité, il y a certaines traditions qui se développent assez tardivement, mais le discours religieux fondamentaliste leur donne un cachet d'ancienneté. C'est qu'au nom de la pudeur, on fait des textes, une lecture obscène. Je crois qu'il faut revendiquer la pudeur, mais dans son sens véritable, dans son sens profond. La pudeur, dans nos traditions religieuses, elle nous enseigne qu'aucun d'entre nous n'est complètement visible, qu'aucun d'entre nous ne peut prétendre à voir l'autre entièrement nu, mais que quelque chose de l'autre nous échappe, que quelque chose de nous-mêmes nous échappe.
In a way, it is a crisis of faith when you are confronted with so many negative aspects of your religion. And statistics reveal that 1,500 babies are abandoned in the streets of Khartoum every year.
هيا حالات ده بيت ولا ولد؟
بيت
ما ده كنت في السرير عنده سرير كم ولا كده سنة؟
والله الطفل ده وجدناه في البخيت في الجفة دي يعني محطوط في الجفة في الشارع العام حتى له غيارات ملابس.
It is a criminal offense to have a child outside marriage, and so if you get pregnant and have a child outside marriage, you face the possibility of Sharia law being imposed on you and receiving 100 lashes.
مثلا بنتي تبلغ نفسها عن الإجراءات شنو حتتعرض لمحكمة؟
نعم حتتعرض لمحكمة، نعم حتتعرض لمحكمة وحيث
لا بلاغ بتاع الزنا.
البلاغ بتاع الزنا اللي هو عندنا في القانون الجنائي هي المادة 146.
اشرح لي ما فهمت.
يعني عندنا في القانون الجنائي المادة 46 اللي هو يعني الزنا يعني
إنه
عقوبة الزنا
بعدين هي بتتعاقب القاضي يعني بحاكمها بالجلد حسب الشرع يعني
حسب الشرع.
لكن الرجل طيب ما تتنفذ فيه القانون ده.
ايوه لان هي طبعا هي اللي بتكون متحمل المسؤوليه، هي الرجل ما بيمارس معاه الفاحشه وبيهرب او تاني لما يعرف انها هي حملت ما حيلاقيها تاني يعني حيكون متهرب منها وكده.
It is illegal for women who are unmarried to have access to contraception. Abortion is illegal, so there is no recourse. So many women, because of the law, but also because the society will stigmatize them and reject them, end up abandoning their babies or actually killing the baby. It is an enormous tragedy, not just in Sudan, but in all traditionally Muslim societies. I think there is definitely a crisis of intellect in our religion, in Islam. There is a crisis of ethics, and I think it is to do with not confronting modernity.
Et on a tendance finalement à faire habiter la religion de façon presque autiste dans un monde qui la garderait soit complètement séparée des problèmes de notre temps, soit capable d'y apporter uniquement des paroles ultra conformistes et conservatrices. Et c'est pas ma croyance.
Tout va si vite autour de nous, le monde va si vite. Et pourtant, sur cette question des droits des femmes, de leur autonomie, tout semble si lent, presque immuable. Je réalise la chance que j'ai de pouvoir faire une chose aussi simple que déambuler dans les rues, aller et venir où je veux. Je pense à toutes celles pour qui cela est encore impossible.
Violence against women is universal. From Sweden to Togo to Colombia to the Pacific, all women in all countries suffer violence against women. There has been a study, 1 out of 3 women in the EU countries suffer physical violence, most of which is with an intimate partner, a husband, a boyfriend, a member of the family.
Mon père frappait ma mère et c'était pour lui normal. C'était probablement même pas un problème éthique, un problème d'inégalité. C'était simplement un homme qui avait un problème avec sa femme, pouvait la frapper, pouvait la battre devant les enfants, casser la vaisselle, brutaliser, et puis revenir quand ça lui chantait, pour des raisons autres que des raisons proprement familiales. Simplement, il avait besoin de retrouver une femme.
Je suis en train de faire un reportage Place Tahrir au Caire, juste avant les premières élections libres depuis la chute de Moubarak. Et brusquement, je vais devenir victime. La foule se déchaîne, vous savez, vous avez l'impression d'être un morceau de viande jeté dans une foule comme ça de milliers d'hommes. On n'est rien, on ne peut rien faire. J'ai juste pensé, il ne faut pas que je tombe, parce que si je tombe, je suis morte. Et jamais j'aurais pensé qu'une chose comme ça m'arrive. Je vais penser aux enlèvements, je vais penser, bien sûr, les bombes, les tirs, les enlèvements, mais je n'avais jamais pensé au viol. Et en fait, ça m'est arrivé, et j'aurais jamais pensé que ça m'arrive comme ça, en plein jour, et sur une place publique, en plein reportage.
J'ai eu des accidents du travail dans mon métier de grand reporter. Une fois, j'ai été très près du précipice. Ma culture musulmane m'a aidée, parce que ce jour-là, en Libye, j'ai dit à ce dictateur, et là encore, c'est sans, vous n'avez rien au dos. Vous êtes le mot dos au mur, mais peut-être que dans votre âme d'être humain, il y a des signaux et des feux rouges qui s'allument. Une idée m'est venue, et j'ai dit, en anglais, comme c'était hier, c'était en février 1984, I can't, I'm ill. Pour m'entendre dire, how many days? 2 days. Je ne peux pas, je suis malade. Et il m'a répondu, combien de jours? J'ai dit 2 jours. Donc je n'étais pas... J'étais haram, péché, pas concevable. De qui je parle? Mais de Kadhafi, c'est connu. C'était en 84, j'étais en reportage en Libye et j'avais fait une interview avec le lieutenant-colonel Kadhafi. Et à la fin de l'interview, de fil en aiguille, avec la complicité de son interprète, il a cherché à m'égarer dans la caserne Azizia. C'est l'ultime défense, c'est la survie. On est dans le domaine de la survie.
Et donc j'ai parlé, j'ai raconté ce qui s'était passé ensuite. Et on m'en a voulu. On m'en a voulu d'avoir parlé. C'est des choses qu'on ne raconte pas, c'est l'intime. Je dis, mais non, c'est pas intime, parce que quand on est violé en plein jour en reportage sur une place publique, c'est pas de l'intime. Et j'ai été sauvée. Et j'ai été sauvée, si j'ai été sauvée, c'est aussi pour parler. Et je ne vais pas me taire. Je risque pas de me taire. Parce que quand on est journaliste, si on se tait, qui parlera à notre place? Et je comprends tellement bien après le combat de toutes ces femmes très courageuses, qu'elles sont en Égypte, en France, toutes les femmes violées partout. Aujourd'hui en Syrie, il y a plein de femmes qui sont violées. On n'en parle jamais. Et c'est une honte pour elles. Elles sont exclues de leur famille. C'est une tâche indélébile. Ça a toujours été une arme de guerre, le viol. On en a parlé pendant la guerre en ex-Yougoslavie, en Afrique, partout. Le viol, les femmes, on les viole pour les faire taire. Et là, si vous voulez, je pense que nous, les journalistes, on a été des cibles parce qu'on voulait aussi nous faire taire.
The international community has spared no effort to address the question of sexual violence, to address the gendered impact of conflict. The Security Council has come up with a large number of resolutions, one after the other, to address these issues. And when I see what's going on around me, that rape is still used as a tool of war, that women are not spared, that violence against women has become an entrenched tactic of war, this is very disturbing.
It's very important for us as women, as feminists, to involve men in the project of advocacy for our causes. We live in a society which is not just about women, it's also about class, it's about race, and the whole issues intertwine in very complex ways.
All of that will change when men see it as their responsibility to bring about the change. When men realize that as fathers, as brothers, as sons, they have a stake in ending violence against women.
The fact that you have strong women in the family does not have to mean that the men in it are not strong. Actually, if anything, it means that the men in this family are quite something, because they have the confidence to allow the women to flourish and be themselves. And, you know, my definition of feminism means working toward having women being treated as human beings. For me, this is feminism. And obviously, you know, as a man, you can be a feminist. As a woman, you can be a feminist.
Si hommes et femmes unissent leurs forces pour endiguer la violence, alors peut-être pourrons-nous enfin envisager la paix.
The bravest and most powerful initiatives against war throughout the century had been taken by women. And now, of course, we're beginning to estimate, to measure the importance of women's role in peace building worldwide. They are extremely courageous, particularly when it concerns issues like terrorism. I'm thinking of a young woman in northwest Pakistan called Gululai Ismail. When Gululai was only 15 years old, she started an organization called Aware Girls in order to make sure that young women in that area, which was really monopolized by the Taliban, to ensure that young women could go to school. Threats have been made on her life continuously, and she goes out every morning and continues her work. And she has even now taken her work into the madrasas where young boys are educated and identified those boys who are being trained as jihadis and going back with them about why the Quran would not approve of suicide bombing. And she has had the most remarkable success in persuading young potential terrorists to desist, to stop. She has my total respect.
Today, the fact is that we have more conflicts which are recurrent conflicts, so not new conflicts, but conflicts which break out after an ostensible, hard-won, long-negotiated peace agreement. Why?
The key thing to know is that 50% of peace agreements fall apart within 5 years. Why? Because 50% of the population affected by war are not at the negotiating table. This means that the experience of those who suffer most in conflict, women and children, is not brought into the discussion. And this is absolutely crucial.
However, when men who fight decide to stop fighting and sit at the table to make peace, they prefer to talk amongst themselves. In other words, being a killer qualifies you to be a peacemaker. I mean, how bizarre is that? That those who don't fight, those who don't take arms, are not trusted as the ones who can craft peace. And those who fight and those who kill are rewarded by being the one who must determine the destiny of everybody.
What we need is not simply a ceasefire or a military solution. We need to see how will we rebirth this cradle of civilization? How will we rebirth the values that make life desirable and possible between people, however different they may seem to be culturally, because we are all one in our human spirit.
cette année d'enquête, jalonnée de rencontres, de questionnements et de découvertes, nous avons pris conscience, mes équipes et moi, de l'ampleur du sujet et surtout de sa gravité. L'histoire est en marche et c'est à nous tous de l'écrire. Pourquoi pas avec un grand E comme égalité? Nous, on y croit. Et vous?
Il y aura des hauts, des bas. Ça va reculer, ça va avancer. Mais tout compte fait, même si on avance d'un tout petit peu, on marche. C'est comme pour les mouvements de la décolonisation. Ça se fera.
Ideally, I would like to have just maybe 1 year, just 1 year in China where the Politburo, the 7 members of the Politburo, are still communist members, party, but they're all women. I just want 1 year to see what would happen to China if we just had a Politburo of 7 female communists rather than 7 male communists. That's all.
In the summer, my mother would be sitting beside me on the train and on the underground, and she would be wearing her hijab, completely covered. I would be in my little sleeveless top, and we would be sitting side by side, and neither of us is condemned. And really, that is my ideal world.
VOA presents the following National Geographic program as we continue to explore the world around us.
Most people, when you say Arabia, they think camels, terrorism, pirates, oil and gas. They don't think coral reefs or sharks. So I proposed a story to National Geographic magazine to kind of change that, because Arabia, is home to some of the most incredible marine ecosystems on our planet. Fortunate the story was approved and off I went, at the same time as the Arab Spring was going on. So my timing on these stories is not ideal, but nonetheless, the Arabian Peninsula, and we covered parts of the African coast as well, the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, the Arabian Sea, and then the Persian Gulf. We began in the Gulf of Aden on the Somali-Djibouti border, sandwiched between pirates and the Western naval forces hunting the pirates. There is an aggregation of whale sharks, which nobody knows about. And every year, these young juvenile whale sharks aggregate to feed. Whale sharks have fingerprints just like us, and you can identify them by looking at the spot pattern on them. And each whale shark is completely unique with the spot pattern. So after a week or two, I think there was almost more than 100 different whale sharks feeding in that larger area. The biggest danger for a photographer here is becoming a whale shark sandwich. And then you get this sort of, these guys actually suck the water in. It's this incredible, stationary feeding, gulping behavior. I also spent a lot of time with the local Somali and Afari fishermen because I wanted to document their relationship with the ocean. I spent many nights out at sea with them. And then one night after midnight, they go, hey, we sometimes have lots of whale sharks around our boat at night. And I go, whale sharks don't feed at night. They go, yes, they do. These guys have these sort of lights on their boats. And with those lights, they attract small plankton, which attracts bait fish. And they catch these bait fish with nets. And then they use the bait to catch, on a hook to catch larger fish. And the whale sharks love the free meal of plankton. And they rub up against the boats. And I'm going, I have to take this picture. No one had actually documented this before. So I go in the water and I'm using my flashes and they ruin the complete nighttime ambience. And the whale sharks don't like him. And then I shoot without them, but the lights on these boats are just way, way too dim. Luckily, I come prepared. And, at night, we park the big boat next to the small fishing boats and we turn on the light. And the light attracts little plankton, which attracts big plankton, which attracts little fish, which attracts bigger fish. And then after an hour or two, it attracted the world's biggest fish. It's kind of weird because it's hard to get a perspective of size with whale sharks, but these are actually juveniles. This is an aggregation of subadults. Now at first I was disappointed. Oh, they're just small whale sharks, just 100 of them. That sucks. I wish they were bigger. When I was taking the images, having them small actually made all the difference because you're underwater. All you have is this very thin cone of light, and you're in the dark, and all you can see is these whale sharks moving in and out of the light like ships, looming in and out of the fog. And then you get pictures like this, just coming out of the gloom. But I really wanted a picture of the whale shark more interacting with the light. I did this for day after day, and at the end I got this frame. The whale shark was vertically suction feeding for about a half an hour in that position. So this was, anybody could have taken that picture because he stood there for that long. Not much skill. You point and shoot. Not much skill in there. But with a larger whale shark, I would have gotten a fin or half a head. So it's only because these guys are juveniles. That is the only reason I was able to get this picture. From the Gulf of Aden, Saudi Arabia. My interest was mainly up on the Iraq, Iran, Kuwait border. My mother despairs every time she finds out where my next assignment is. And of course, armed guards wherever I went, and this is a world of mud. Mud, mud, and more mud, and we had to use a hovercraft. Star Wars, right? I mean, come on. Hovercrafts, it was just like crazy. And why did I go there? Well, I wanted to photograph the animal that made these. Now, these are very, very tiny mud walls, but in a desert environment like this, they're lifesavers because basically they retain water. And the animal that made them are mudskippers. Not your normal garden variety mudskipper, Arabian mudskippers. That big and this thick. And they do these incredible courtship displays. They leap as high as they can. Whichever male leaps the highest gets the female, I think. They also have these cool fighting displays. They puff each other up and they raise the dorsal and they just stare at each other and then they do all these sort of... for these pictures, you lie in the mud for an hour before these fish come out of the hole. So you are stationary for days to get, these little glimpses. But yeah, I love these guys. Like, oi! You can hear them screaming, right? That's my female mudskipper or whatever. Anyway, let's move on. I moved on to turtles in the Arabian Sea. And as I was shooting all this great biodiversity, I'm going, hang on, I'm not seeing any sharks. After the whale sharks, I hadn't seen a single other shark. I'm going, what's going on here? And I figured it out when I was in Oman, photographing seasonal kelp forest communities at Salalah. And one evening I was, and there's a little place called Mirbat. It's this place that kind of time forgot. It's this sort of old school Arab fishing village. And there's this wall of people at the port. And I kind of, gently elbow my way through, And as the crowd parts, I see this. This is about 93 silky sharks. This is one boat's load, and every hour another boat arrives and offloads exactly the same number of sharks. So the one night I was there, I think it must have been 1,000 silky sharks. And then they auction everything off. And then at the end of the auction, all the sharks are loaded into these freezer trucks and they're taken away. And I wanted to know where, so I started following these trucks. I ended up in these ice houses. Now these trucks are not freezer trucks, they're insulated, but they're badly insulated. So every few hundred kilometers they have to restock with ice. And that's where they kind of barter the sharks and resell them. And there I found out that in actual fact all these sharks are going to Dubai. So I went to Dubai. And there I saw dozens of Omani trucks offloading large Arabian Sea sharks. And, fins are only cut off there. And the meat goes to Bangladesh, it goes to Pakistan, it goes to Sri Lanka for consumption. It's the cheapest sort of marine protein there is. And the fins are exported to Asia for royal sums and princely sums. And it appears that over the last couple of years, Dubai has become the 4th largest exporter of shark fins to Hong Kong in the world. And that is, had really sort of bypassed most of the scientific literature that I'd reviewed. So this was a massive surprise to actually be able to document this trade route across the Great Arabian Desert. And, went to Hong Kong afterwards, and I tried to track these fins all the way to Hong Kong. There's a street in Hong Kong that basically is dedicated only to shark fin and dried seafood. I think there's 140 different shops, shark fin city. And that's where I found my sharks, dried in the shops. The article was published 2012. A lot of conservation issues were addressed in it, and, it kind of really began a conversation in the Middle East as well about how to better manage one's shark fisheries.
exploring the world around us.